Okay, welcome to Christories. I'm Christopher Distefano, aka Christory Distefano, and this is Christories, hashtag Christories. Today, we're going to talk about the history of the Olympics. We're talking naked Greek men, yummy, fires, and worldwide competition. Shout out the gold medal, even though I'm probably only going to win the bronze. Going back to ancient Greece, baby. I love ancient Greece. Shout it out. My mom just went to Greece and got drunk with her friends. Ancient Greek games began in ancient Greek people in July 776. Not July 1776. That's these guys. July 776 BC. BC. That's when these Olympics, ancient Greek games started. So they've been doing this a long time. Which is surprising how few medals the Greeks actually win, because, I mean, they've been doing it by far the longest, and they kind of just suck at every sport, besides smoking cigarettes. This festival, it was, you know, had music, athletic events, and it was to honor our boy Zeus. Love you, Zeus. Shout out, the king of the Greek gods. What better place than where his biggest temple was at in the western part of the Peloponnesian Peninsula, Olympia. Olympia. So the city-states and colonies, Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Megara, Argos, Rhodes, they all traveled to Olympia to compete. You see, Olympia, that's where we're going to get the word Olympics from. Now, these people participating, they didn't necessarily think of themselves as Greek, but they were a citizen of where they were from. Like, you're Athenian, you're a Spartan, you're a Megaran, you're a Rhodes. You're not just Greek. Like, that's like later on in life where, like, you're all Greek. These people were like, no, I'm representing my frickin' neighborhood. I'm representing my city-state. They're representing their home. And this was a religious ceremony, okay? So this was more about sport. This was not only about sports, it was also about religion. Thank you, Zeus. Athens, Sparta, Thebes, Corinth, the major Greek city-states, they always were fighting in wars over territory, power, influence. I mean, they fought all the time. They hated each other. They did not become unified for years and years later. But with this religious ceremony, the Olympics, the city-states, they kind of had a truce in Ekecheria, which stopped the ongoing wars, and then people would just travel to Olympia, and everybody would play nice, and they would just compete in the arena. And over time, the games, they went on from 1 day to 5 days, and then they started being held every 4 years from 776 BCE to 393 AD. There were 293 Olympic Games. Now, there was an opening ceremony for the games where competitors would have a procession from their home to Olympia. And once in Olympia, they would swear an oath to everyone and the gods to follow all the game's rules. Everyone promised to compete with respect and honor. And as this was a religious ceremony, they would, of course, sacrifice oxen, goats, sheep, and children to Zeus. That's what happens. Now, one competition was actually a race. They would race in the stadium, 600 Greek Olympic feet, aka stadia. So you had a race in the stadium, 600 Olympic Greek feet. A short foot race of about 192 meters, one length of the stadium. The first Olympic game was won by a cook from Elis named Corrobius. This guy was just a cook. Over time, again, this first race was just 192 meters, one length of the stadium. It got longer and longer. So this race, athletes would wear armor and they carry shields and they run over 2 to 4 stadia. So just kind of this big open field, they would just run. I mean, with armor in the middle of the summer, that's not easy. Sweating bullets. Then they went on to this 5-event race called the pentathlon, in the stadion, foot race, wrestling, long jump, javelin throw, discus throw. These guys were in good shape. They were like legitimate athletes. They also had combat sports. Okay, they had wrestling, grappling sport, which you would you would have to throw your opponent to the ground. So kind of like sumo wrestling, but for Greek people. Boxing, pikamachia, a combat sport where competitors aim to knock out or outscore their opponents. So again, modern day boxing. At first they would tie their hands with an old cloth, but later then they used leather. I mean, literally these guys fighting with just old cloth on their hands, brutes magoots. I mean, knocking out each other's teeth, who knows? Then they did an event called the Pankrateion, which was a combination of boxing and wrestling with absolutely no rules. I mean, you could just do whatever, you could bite. It didn't matter. Just get out there and beat the shit out of each other. And this is my favorite part. All the athletes, they competed butt naked, folks, butt naked in the nude. They wanted, it was a tribute to the gods and their physical prowess of just these naked Greek men with their big uncircumcised cocks. You know, competing in the nude, it kind of like everybody appreciated their athletic excellence. I think they should bring that back. Why not be naked? I feel like we don't celebrate being naked anymore. Get out there. Pull your genitalia out. Do it right now at work. I'll wait. And also what nudity did is it just showed you like your true meat vessel. So any distinction of wealth or status or anything, gone. We're all equal. Look at my body. And it was practical. You had no clothes on, allowed for greater freedom of movement, reduced the risk of injury from garments, you know, catching or restricting the body during movements. You were just butt naked, let it all hang out. I kind of respect it. So women were unfortunately not allowed to participate in the Olympics, but they were allowed to be naked. So they were not allowed to participate at all or even watch the games. Oh my God, you can't even look, lady. And married women were prohibited from attending the games as spectators. However, unmarried women, maidens, were sometimes allowed to watch. Okay, you're allowed to watch my dick and balls flapping around and be like, you like it? Put some tzatziki sauce on it. Now, wealthy women, though, if you had some money, you could own and sponsor chariots that competed in the chariot races. That's kind of nice. Most famous example is Kyniska of Sparta, who became the first woman to ever win an Olympic victory as a chariot owner in the 4th century BCE. So shout her out. She's the first female Olympian to ever own a chariot and win. And now, hopefully this year, we have Leah Thomas. So in honor of the goddess, Hera, Zeus, wifey, the Chaerean Games were a separate festival just held for women. Okay, so it was just a women's fest. It was like the WNBA of the Olympics. Featured foot races and other events. These games took place at Olympia, but it was clear they were not a part of the main Olympic Games. Okay, so like, yes, you have your like event here, but like, I feel like people like probably really didn't care, and they were just all about the men, even though the women were probably doing as good or probably better. And I don't know if the women were naked or not, but in my head, I imagine that they were. I imagine that everyone was just running around with a full bush. I think pubes should come back, by the way. Bring back the bush. As the fame of the Olympic Games spread in 6th century BC, other Greek colonies from regions like Ionia, which was on the west coast of Asia Minor, and Magna Graecia, southern Italy and Sicily, also began to participate. So it started off with just the locals, and now it's getting bigger. These games are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the people would come, they would come 1 month before the games to train. They were accompanied by personal trainers. They had personal oil massagers. That was my job. And they would be prepared for this game. They prepared for almost a year. So it's kind of getting closer to how we, the modern day Olympians, do. They dedicate their whole life to it. That's what was starting to happen here. Baby, Z-Biotics, they are the maker of the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic, your first drink of the night for a better tomorrow. Engineered by a team of PhD microbiologists, pre-alcohol is a probiotic drink that breaks down the byproduct of alcohol, which is responsible for rough mornings after drinking. Here's how you do it. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make Z-Biotics pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Love Z-Biotics. Let me tell you something. I've used it a couple of times, and it really, really, really works. I just can't explain. I mean, they just did explain how it works, but it does. It like actually really works, because here's what it is. Pre-alcohol, like we said, it's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. But what happens is when you drink alcohol, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. And it is this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. And of course, for being loyal listeners of Christories, you will get a discount. All you have to do is go to zbiotics.com/Christories to get 15% off your first order when you use Christories at checkout. Pre-alcohol is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No Questions asked. Vacations, weddings, birthdays, and reunions. There's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on this pre-alcohol now. Remember, just go to zbiotics.com/Christories and use the code Christories at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. The ancient Greek games, the ancient Olympic Games, did not have gold, silver, and bronze medals like we do right now. That only came in 1904. Interesting. In ancient Greece, there were several honors and rewards you could get. They would receive an olive wreath, or kotinos, which was a wreath made from the sacred olive tree at Olympia, which symbolized victory and honor. So instead of getting a medal, you got just an olive wreath, which is like thanks, but like thanks. Sometimes they were given ribbons called tainia, which they wore on their head, arms, or legs. So that, whatever, fine. Other honors, some victors had statues erected in their honor at Olympia. I like that. In their home city, some poets would compose victory odes celebrating their achievements, and many city-states would welcome their victors back with parades, gifts, financial rewards, thank you, free meals, yummy, yummy, tax exemptions. You were basically a celeb, so I want to live in that city-state. I don't want to live in the city-state where I do all this shit and you give me a fucking olive wreath. Yeah, so a lot of people believe that this olive wreath that you would receive actually had magical powers, okay? So like it could just make you, it was like bath salts. Winning at the Olympic Games, it brought immense honor. Okay, such an honor, not only to the athlete, but also to their city-state, to their family, and it enhanced your reputation in the Greek world. Like literally, like this was huge. Here's the thing. And then what happened is everyone's having fun in Greece. They're doing it the way they want to do it. It's great. But then all of a sudden, the Romans took over, the Italians. The Romans took over Greece in 2nd century BCE. And then the Olympic Games continued, but they underwent some changes, and they got influenced by a little Roman culture, which is like some is good, some is whatever. Here are the key points about the Olympic Games during the Roman period. The games were definitely still popular. Everybody loved them. They were held every 4 years in Olympia. But then Roman athletes started to participate in the games, okay? And some Roman emperors even sponsored events and wanted to be, they wanted to just put their money and touch on it. And they introduced some new events. They adopted some old existing ones, so they really weren't too bad with the Olympic Games. But then they had some new events that reflected Roman tastes and practices, such as the gladiatorial contests and chariot races. So that's pretty cool. They had the gladiators kind of entered the Olympics, which dope. Also, what's on the rise there? Christianity. During this time, Christianity and the Christianization of the Roman Empire, this is big. So we have pagan festivals, including the Olympic Games, were increasingly seen as inappropriate. Okay, so it's all about Christianity and Jesus. We don't care about Zeus. So the Olympic Games is kind of like, yo, you're getting close here. So in 393 AD, Emperor Theodosius I, no relation to Venetia, officially banned all pagan festivals, including the Olympic Games. No fun, police. And it wasn't until 1896 did the Olympics start again in Athens, Greece. So how wild is that? Like for all these years, through these medieval times, George Washington, they didn't even know what the Olympics were. It was like a forgotten about thing. They only came back in 1896. I can never see them going away again. I feel like they're here forever. Now, the modern Olympic Games, the ones that are on pretty soon, this summer, were revived in 1896 by a wealthy socialite and historian, Pierre de Coubertin, a Frenchman. Now, Pierre was a strong advocate for physical education and believed that reviving the Olympics would promote physical fitness and sportsmanship globally. He was right. He thought it could also promote world peace, as the Games once paused conflict in order to compete. Also, good idea, but didn't work. Coubertin organized an international congress in Paris in 1894, where representatives from various countries supported the idea of reviving the Olympics. The first modern Olympic Games were held in Athens, Greece, good place, in 1896. It was chosen because obviously historical significance as the birthplace of the ancient Olympics. Athletes from 14 countries participated: Greece, Australia, Austria, Bulgaria, Chile, Denmark, France, Germany, Great Britain, Hungary, Italy, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United States. And they competed in 43 events, marking the beginning of the modern international Olympic movement. The success of those 1896 Athens Olympics laid the foundation for the continuation and expansion of the Olympic Games, leading to where it is today. So here are some major historical events tied to the Olympics. 1900, Paris Olympics, which is where they're held this summer, part of the 1900s World Fair, and it was the first participation of women, including events in tennis and golf. Shout them out. 1928 Amsterdam Olympics, everyone's smoking pot, banging prostitutes. Women's athletics and gymnastics debuted at these games, marking a significant expansion of women's participation. Women's gymnastics are my favorite event to watch. The girls crush it. 1936 Berlin Olympics. This was hosted by the Nazis. These games were controversial due to Nazi, propaganda. This is the one, like, you see that video where, like, Hitler's handshake and he's on crystal meth. That's these games, and Jesse Owens, who was like the antithesis of what Nazi Germany wanted. He beat the shit out of everybody and won all these events. So good shit. Then 1980 Moscow Olympics. That's the one the U.S. boycotted. In 1980 Summer Olympics held in Moscow because they were protesting the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in December 1979, even though we would invade them a few years later. So, and this boycott was led by President Jimmy Carter, who's still alive. This guy's you've never seen an older man in your life, okay? He's like literally like, he's like a Japanese grandmother. This guy just keeps living. 60 other countries also did not participate in the Moscow Games because they were being dicks. In response to the 1980 boycott, of course, some Soviet Union countries and Eastern Bloc countries boycotted the 1984 Summer Olympics held in LA, but like nobody actually cared at all. So in closing, shout out to the Ancient Greeks, Venetia's family. You guys created a dope tradition that we still love and celebrate today. Time where we stop doing what we're doing, where everything stops, and we're like, let's come together and watch these Olympics. Let's support other countries. Let's support our own country. It's a beautiful event. It's happening in Paris this year. I'll be rooting for Team USA, USA, USA. And I was going to go to Paris to watch the Olympics, but I can't go. I can't go this year because my family would rather go to Colonial Williamsburg. So, yeah. But go USA. Hope everyone does well. Hope it stops the war. It probably won't. We're going to get nuked. That was Christories, and yesterday was history.